Guys, this is scary and we will talk about this today. A study has found something new inside Campi Flegrei, inside the caldera, a new fault line. We'll talk about this and many other things in this video. Stay tuned, it's valuable information. Okay guys, we need to talk about Campi Flegrei again because this thing keeps me awake at night, I have to say, not only because it's been rumbling there all the time. I mean, there was another earthquake swarm yesterday that lasted for almost 3 days. It started on July 1st into July 3rd. And while I was making my other video, the earthquakes kept coming. And then while I was filming the video, there was another 3.2. And the significance of this swarm is that there were many clustered that were almost reaching magnitude 3. So that wasn't a smaller seismic swarm. So that means something, guys. And I want to look into this a little further before I tell you what the officials in Italy are saying and what the residents are feeling. Because you have to understand this volcano there, Campi Flegrei, this consists of several extinct craters like that have been formed millions of years ago, but also some craters that have been formed 35,000 years ago and some 500 years ago, like Monte Nuovo. And the most active area is around a caldera that's called the Solfatara. It looks like a little bit like a sand dune, this white inlet there. There we have all these fumaroles coming out, these hot steam vents and some bubbling spring hot steam stuff, mud pools, so to speak. And basically the earthquake activity is concentrated around this Solfatara. Campi Flegrei stretches around 100 kilometers and into the Gulf of Naples. So this could be the epicenter of a new potential eruption because there is the cluster of earthquakes. But what was new in the earthquake swarms the last 3 days, it was a little bit shifted. If you see the map here of all the seismic events, if you see the red dots, that's the recent ones, but basically still in the area of Campi Flegrei, that's for sure, but something's going on. And Campi Flegrei, as I just said, didn't have an eruption for quite a while, so it has been dormant, and it seems it's waking up now. You have to understand, basically since August 2023, overall roughly about 5,000 earthquakes. And the month of May, this May, basically hit the record of 1,500 earthquakes in 1 month alone. And we also know May 20th had the biggest earthquakes in decades. They say 40 years, but probably in hundreds of years, 4.4 magnitude. And that's a lot for volcanic activity. We're not talking about subduction zone earthquakes or stuff like this, like we could see on the west coast of the US and Canada, the Cascadia Fault, or also not something like San Andreas Fault in California or something like this. So these earthquakes result from magma on the move, magmatic stuff on the move. And since they have confirmed this year that the magma chamber that might cause the next eruption is at a shallow depth of only 4 to 4.5 kilometers of depth and not deeper, which they originally thought, which would have been better because then magma needs a little bit of a longer time to reach the surface. So it seems Campi Flegrei, a potential supervolcano, is waking up. And so what happens to volcanoes if they're reawakening after a long period, a long repose? They have to rupture the crust before they can erupt, before the magma can reach the surface. So the crust basically keeps a lid on. If you look at this graphic here, the caprock layer keeps the lid on. And this process of rupturing the crust, what's an indication that this is happening? It is preceded by repeatable variations in the rate of seismicity, earthquakes happening with ground movement, Brady seism. We have the ground movement. The ground is lifting up here at Campi Flegrei, underneath Pozzuoli, the Solfatara. It's been rising. And it's been rising so much that they also had to like repair the port of Pozzuoli in the past because it was rising so much that there wasn't enough water in the port, so to speak. So the earthquakes that we recently see compared with the accelerated land rise, it has accelerated since April. It has doubled since April. It used to have a rate of 1 centimeter per month. Since mid-April, it's 2 centimeters per month. And then even there was a little bit of an acceleration, and then what they just released, and that is interesting, in their weekly bulletin, the Italian Institute for Geophysics and Volcanology, they release a bulletin every week where they report about what's going on at Campi Flegrei. So now they have confirmed that after the May 20th 4.4 earthquake, there was a little bit of a land subsidence. The land was sinking, not much, only 0.5 centimeter up to 1 centimeter. But they have acknowledged this before, just a few weeks before. They said, oh, this might just be an abnormality in our measuring instruments and it's not real, hasn't happened. But now basically and I always said this, guys, remember I said, I don't think, because it was at several measuring stations, I don't think this is just a measuring error or something. I think something happened. And if you follow my channel and if you follow the Iceland videos with the magma chamber underneath the tourist attraction, Blue Lagoon, it's if the land keeps rising there, and then if there's enough pressure in the magma chamber that it can send magma on its way, the land keeps sinking, the land keeps subsiding because magma is leaving the magma chamber, and then it's refilling again, so the magma's rising again because there's a deeper magma reservoir that is filling up the magma chamber. So it's a constant, like, land keeps rising, eruption, land keeps subsiding, then land keeps rising again, eruption. And so here, that little subsidence could be an indication that there was a magma intrusion, that magma was indeed sent on its way up, but didn't make it to cause an eruption. So only a little bit of magma must have gone out because the land subsidence is not super significant, but it's there. And now the rumbling continues, the earthquakes keep continuing, and we see swarms, and this one at a higher rate, above 3. And after the 4.4, there was another swarm with 3.7. So on a regular base now, we are seeing this. And a study has found that the caprock layer that keeps the lid on has lost 2/3 of its stability since the 1980s. In the 1980s, there was also Brady seismic activity, earthquake activity, and it seems there was a magma intrusion happening as well, a bigger one, and then the caprock layer kept the lid on. But now it only has 1/3 of its strength left, and every rumbling is basically grinding it and trying to destroy it, cracking it, and getting it more brittle. Before an eruption, we see stress, the earthquakes, the land rise. And if this is repeating, the seismicity, the earthquakes are repeating with that ground movement, it's an applied stress that is released by these local earthquakes at the active volcanic area. We did have rupturing sequences. That's how they are called. And they have been developing in the past across 4 episodes, but those episodes have damaged the crusts. So there was a ground uplift at Campi Flegrei caldera in the 1950s till 1952, then 1969 till 1972, and then 1982 till 1984, where it got so bad that they did evacuate 40,000 people. But then there was no eruption, probably only an intrusion. And then since 2004, the current episode is happening. The current Brady seism is happening, and these repeated earthquakes that got more intense basically since 2023, especially since the end of 2023. Basically in November 2023, they said if this continues, we have to raise the alert level, but then they didn't. And now we found out, if you've seen my past videos, why? Because they're worried about property prices dropping and they're worried about tourism. Well, is that really what should motivate you to not raise the alert level and endanger so many people? I'm raising this question mark. What we definitely know, the unrest has been changing the structure of Campi Flegrei's crust that keeps the lid on. And recently, the scientists have said it has reached a breaking point. It has reached the breaking point. And you have to understand what that means. The breaking point means it breaks and then there's an eruption. And you know, this rumbling supervolcano in the direct danger zone, this volcano has more than 500,000 people at edge right now. So what have they reported about yesterday's earthquakes? And as I mentioned, there is something very scary. The news just came out today and they announced this. We'll get to this in a minute. They say earthquake tonight in Campi Flegrei, a magnitude 3.2 shook at 2:18 a.m. and the seismic storm continues. There were aftershocks, so to speak, or the shocks continued after the 3.2. Not in a high range, in the 1 range, you see it here on the list, but scary enough. And the INGV has reported that the epicenter was on the border between the Solfatara, this caldera of Pozzuoli, and the Neapolitan neighborhood of Bagnoli and the western outskirts of the capital city of Naples. So overall, if you include Naples, more than 3 million people at risk from this volcano. This swarm had many tremors in a very short time between 2.5, 2.9, and then the 3.2. That's why the officials of Pozzuoli did alert their residents via their Facebook profile. Whether these residents were able to see that or not, that remains questionable because there's a lot of older people and I don't even think they're doing Facebook. So they're saying on their Facebook page that the Vesuvius Observatory has communicated to this administration that starting at 3:09 p.m. local time on July 2nd, a seismic swarm is underway in the Campi Flegrei area, and that at the time they had issued this, there were more than 23 earthquakes with a more higher magnitude and the 3.2. So after the 3.2, for over an hour, tremors were occurring in the 1 range. They say at the moment, what they can say, no damage to people or things have been reported, but the fear among the residents of the Campi Flegrei, and we have to say the residents of the Campi Flegrei because they're living on top of the volcano, right on top. So they're scared. The fear is growing. And they're also saying this phenomenon of bradyseism that's happening right now shows no signs of reversing its course. So it won't end. And after the 4.4, the scientists said, be prepared. There could be a 5 magnitude or higher. So the ground keeps rising. And they had this emergency evacuation because of bradyseism, because of earthquakes. They're not putting it into their mouth because of a supervolcanic eruption or even a smaller eruption will cause hundreds of thousands of deaths. No, they were rehearsing on June 26th an earthquake evacuation. And basically, out of 33,000 residents that were supposed to take part in this, guess how many did show up? 30. So even residents think it's probably ridiculous because evacuating or doing something because of earthquakes, that's what they've been doing in the last month, right? So gosh, it's not working. They have no working evacuation system, and that's what the scientists are criticizing, because they say it'll be very, very fatal if this is not in place. But they're also saying if there is an eruption, there's probably very, very little warning time, because when the last eruption happened, the magma already had an explosive state when it was already still underground. So it was happening so quickly, and then it exploded, and you have no chance to escape. You can't outrun that. Your only chance is if you have several days warning time ahead, but that's probably not going to happen. And in light of all this, there's news today. A new fault was discovered in Campi Flegrei. They released that today, and it's located off the coast of Bagnoli. Where is this coming from? They're saying that this new fault was activated during the magnitude 4.2 earthquake that was happening on September 27th in 2023, last year. So they say they made this discovery thanks to a study by the Federico II University of Naples and the INGV, the Italian Institute of Geoscience and Volcanology. So it is breaking. The crust is breaking, a new fault. So what does that mean? We know in the last 2 years specifically, Campi Flegrei has seen a significant increase in land rise, in this ground uplift, plus this increased seismic activity. And of course, the 4.4 this May, but the 4.2 last year as well. And because this does scare the officials, they are constantly monitoring this caldera. They have more than 35 measuring stations everywhere, also in the water, in the sea. So also then they have done many studies. So they are aware of this. They're just not reporting this accurately to the residents, in my opinion. So one study has led the researchers to the discovery of that new fault line at Campi Flegrei. And the exact location is off the coast of La Pietra, the Bagnoli seafront. That's a western area of Naples that is on the border of Pozzuoli. So Naples, again, more than 3 million people if you include Pozzuoli as well. So the study revealed that the new fault was activated during this earthquake in September. What have they done in this study? So how did they discover this? So they have mapped all the earthquakes that have happened at Campi Flegrei in the last decade. They were using a new technique where they integrated seismological data, geophysical parameters, and known geological information. Based on all these data, they were able to come up with their conclusions. So they were able to provide high precision earthquake locations that did allow them to reveal the currently activated fault zones of this internal caldera. So within the caldera, there are fault zones. That doesn't sound good, guys, doesn't it? As they said, it has reached a breaking point. Of course, I will keep you updated on this, and I will release a more detailed video about this fault line shortly. And since my co-host is not with me today, or not next to me today, but he's here, so I let him do the outro. Do you say that? Outro today? So Rudi, your turn. So guys, this was my update about Campi Flegrei. My co-host Rudi today decided to have a chill on the couch, and maybe if you can see what he did to the couch there when he was a puppy, He just opened it up there and he was pulling out all the stuff that was in there. And now Eddie is getting angry because I'm filming Rudi. So guys, I hope you're having a great day. Be safe wherever you are. I'll see you very soon with another update.